The letter R has a long and glorious history with Ducati. Denoting racing, it has stood atop a pedestal high above the base and S for sport models in the superbike, sport touring and even naked families. R models traditionally come with a raft of upgrades and a correspondingly higher price tag, often much higher. In the past, those upgrades have been radical. Recall the 996R, which was the first to employ the test-taste Retta engine, but they've also been as subtle as higher spec suspension and a smattering of carbon fiber. The 2016 Monster 1200R falls somewhere in between. Mechanical changes from the Monster 1200S are modest yet purposeful. The R model gets higher compression 13.1, up from 12.5.1, larger elliptical throttle bodies 56mm versus 53mm, and larger header pipes 58mm versus 50mm, which together boost output to a claimed 160 horsepower at 9,250 rpm, up from 145 bhp, and 97 pound-feet of torque at 7,750 rpm, up from 91.8. The S model's Öhlins suspension has been revived, but not resprung, and the shock lengthened 15mm for increased cornering clearance. A firmer, flatter, but not adjustable, seat is easier to move around on. Toothier racing footpegs provide better toe holds, and individual rider and passenger footpeg brackets combined with new pentagonal-shaped mufflers no longer kick your heels out at an odd angle. Cosmetic changes include a carbon fiber front fender, bikini fairing, reshaped solo seat cowl, and racing stripes. Also noteworthy, this is the first Ducati to meet stringent 4 Euro emissions standards, which require a California-style evaporative canister along with reduced mechanical noise. Given these few changes, it came as something of a surprise when Ducati invited the press to sample the Monster 1200R at the 3.4-mile Ascari race resort in southern Spain. Past intros at this venue have included street rides on the wonderful mountain roads around Ronda, but this time we would stay at the track. That's a pretty ballsy move that speaks to the Monster 1200R's sporting capabilities. It rained biblically the night before our test, and while the sun shone in the morning the track remained flooded in spots. So at the behest of our hosts, we started the day in urban power mode, there is no rain mode, then switched to touring mode for the second session. Where urban cuts power, touring merely dulls response, which given the numerous damp patches on the circuit wasn't a bad idea. Finally, just before lunch we were given the go-ahead to switch to sport mode, which proved exhilarating. With traction control set on 2 and ABS on 1, I found I could push the Monster much harder than I thought I would be able to, while still having a virtual safety net. Still had to watch those damp patches at the apexes, though. Traditionally, my biggest beef about naked bikes is this: while they're comfortable compared to a sport bike, they don't work that well when the pace quickens. As you raise the handlebars you raise the rider and thus the center of gravity, which makes naked bikes wheelie prone and difficult to drive off corners. Ironically, you find yourself having to hang off farther than on a regular sport bike. Ducati addressed this issue by giving the Monster 1200R a lengthy 59.4 inches wheelbase that helps keep the front end planted, not that you can't wheelie when you want to. Those who have ridden a Monster 1200S at track days report that the exhaust power valve mechanism drags badly in corners, but we had no such problem on the R, decking only the footpegs and sit stand. With the bike rolling on 3-spoke Marchesini forged aluminum wheels shod with Pirelli Diablo Supercross SP radials, a massive 255ths Outback, traction is not a problem. Raising the rear end also reduced rake and trail, which quickened steering but maintained the fitment of a steering damper and adjustable Öhlins, naturally. At Ascari, the chassis proved stably at neutral handling, the suspension firm yet supple. We added just a few clicks of compression damping, and the Brembo radial brakes strong if a tad lacking an initial bite. The familiar Teste Stretta 11 degrees dual spark V-twin offers plenty of power, Yet with spot-on throttle response it's delivered in tractor-like fashion that makes the Monster 1200R easy to ride fast. Gearing was definitely too tall for the racetrack. We only hit 4th on the long, kinked back straight, but the ratios are nicely spaced and the clutch/transmission action are excellent. Another thoughtful addition is the digital gear indicator on the color TFT dash, but there is no quick shifter, which seems like a sin of omission on an R model Ducati. And that's my one reservation about this Monster 1200R, at $18,695 in traditional Ducati red and $18,895 in thrilling black. It costs significantly more than the award-winning KTM Super Duke R, among others, yet makes less power and has fewer features. Seems to me it should have all the bells and whistles, such as cornering ABS, electronically adjustable suspension, and, dare I say it? The $1299 Panigale motor. Then and only then would this Monster truly live up to its R designation.